breaking news now coming in. We are learning Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is all set to visit Moscow this week. We are learning now Vikram Misri will be in Moscow and the talks would take place on trade ties. We are learning also on energy and trade. The talks would focus upon. Well, this is the big breaking news that we are learning at this point in time. Well, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri all set to visit Moscow this week. My colleague Ghazali also joins us on the broadcast here. Ghazali, the talks are going to take place on trade ties as well as energy, and this definitely comes at a time when there are talks going on about the peace deal with Ukraine.
Yes, certainly, and there are reports that how U.S. is also going to use Russia for mediation between Iran and U.S. when it comes to the nuclear deal, and giving that kind of a status, that kind of support to Russia certainly makes it feel perhaps that U.S. is also going to ease some sanctions on Russia. Russia has been facing sanctions from G7 and other Western countries, and at this point of time, when Indian Foreign Secretary is headed to Russia, it certainly means that perhaps all this while India was being criticized by US and other Western nations for dealing with Russia. Indian companies are facing sanctions for engaging with Russia when it comes to trade ties, but certainly a bold move from India that despite all this criticism from the Western countries, from US itself, and now India continues to align with Russia and engage with it when it comes to trade ties and investment, because when it comes to energy needs for India, India has been diversifying its partnership. It's not just relying on the on Middle East when it comes to energy needs, but it has been purchasing Russian oil, and that was one major issue which was being criticized by the West. But this meet coming at a point of time when it appears now that US has changed its stance on Russia-Ukraine war, softening its stand towards Mr. Putin and Russia, and Indian Foreign Secretary going there, though India never discusses about the Ukraine-Russia conflict in open. Though Prime Minister has met with Mr. Putin, with Mr. Zelensky last year, and at a time it is also being told that perhaps Russia has also invited or extended an invite to the Indian government and Indian Prime Minister to attend their National Victory Day. So that could be a precursor for that visit. But
well,
certainly,
absolutely. And India, of course, is of the opinion that peace needs to be maintained between both the sides, Ukraine and Russia. Also, Prime Minister Modi has been in touch with the Ukrainian and Russian leaders, Ghazali, so far, even as the Foreign Secretary would be visiting Moscow, and it is expected that the leaders of both the countries could touch upon this issue. But Prime Minister Modi has been in constant touch with the leaders of both the countries so far.
Yeah, certainly, and see, even Mr. Putin himself had admitted last year that there are 3-4 countries which can play the role of mediator. Obviously, members of the BRICS like Brazil, India, and China. An Indian Prime Minister has also spoken to Mr. Zelensky, and both Mr. Putin, and he is one of the very rare leaders from Global South who has always offered to play the role of mediator, or at least be the facilitator in bringing both the leaders on the table. And right now, when Russia and United States themselves are trying to cut ice with each other by holding talks in Riyadh and other places, and amid all this, Indian Foreign Secretary traveling to Russia certainly holds significance, because India has spoken to both the countries about the conflict. That's but natural, a very obvious topic to be discussed when Indian Foreign Secretary will be there. Trade ties, investment, energy, and other sectors in which India and Russia collaborate will be discussed. But it is very likely that Prime Minister, if the invite has been extended for the National Victory Day from Russia, that will also come under discussion.
All right, so this is what we're learning at this point in time. It is an important visit of Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who is going to be in Moscow this week. So Friday is the day that we're learning, Ghazali, that Vikram Misri would be departing for Moscow.
Yes, by this weekend, Vikram Misri is expected to depart for Moscow. And why this is also very significant, because Russia had been facing sanctions and it was globally isolated by all the countries. And now, when US has hinted that Russia can be roped in as a mediator to deal with Iran on nuclear pact, this is something very big. It shows that US is obviously trying to ease all the sanctions. That pariah state, the tag of pariah state on Russia is also going to be slowly removed. By the way, the way Mr. Trump has shown that he is almost backing Putin in this war and almost criticizing Zelensky in the last 24 hours. The kind of utterances or dialogue has come out that it has banned all the aid or stopped all the aid for Ukraine, and also saying that Mr. Zelensky is not in favor of peace by riding on the Western support, on US support. So that shows that Russia is getting something out of this entire negotiation, and all these pressure on Mr. Zelensky by the Western countries, by US, is to ensure that both leaders, Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky, sit for negotiation.
Absolutely. However, we do understand Ukraine has been maintaining that the end of war with Russia is very, very far away. However, there have been attempts that have been made from by the US also, with Donald Trump meeting Zelensky, and we do understand the conversation did not really go well, and hell broke loose after that. There has been a lot of criticism of Zelensky also, as to how the conversations had gone during that meeting with J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. But what does the future really look like at this point in time, going by the developments that have been coming in? Zelensky clearly maintaining that it looks like that the end is very, very far away.
See, peace can't be achieved without security is what Zelensky believes. And if the territory occupied by Russia is not released or not surrendered by Russia, certainly there will be a point when Zelensky will keep pushing for attempts to save the territory of Ukraine. And this is one major factor due to which we have not seen both leaders, both Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky, sitting on the negotiating table. Meanwhile, we saw the recent summit in Britain when UK, France, Italy and other Western countries say that they will increase the aid to Ukraine despite US banning or halting its all aid for Ukraine. So until that doesn't work, because Ukraine continues, or Mr. Zelensky continues to say that until land occupied by Russia is freed from them, there is no peace. And he also speaks about the security guarantees from the Western nations, and especially from US. That was his demand, that even if he goes into the mineral deal with, if he signs that minerals deal with United States, he was expecting that US will give some security guarantees, which he was not getting from US. And that is why he refused for that mineral deal. And that is why we saw an enraged Trump saying that perhaps Mr. Zelensky is not in any favor of accepting any peace proposal. So it all, Kitty, it all revolves around business deals. Mr. Trump is interested in mineral deal. Mr. Zelensky is interested for security deal, while Putin and others are just asking for the war to stop. Meanwhile, none of the countries which are supporting Russia in this war have accused Russia of occupying Ukrainian land.
Absolutely. All right. I'm being told that former Secretary of MEA, Mr. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, is also now joining us on the broadcast here. Sir, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. Sir, this important visit of Vikram Misri to Moscow is planned for this weekend. We are learning on Friday he's expected to go to Moscow. How do we see this in the context of how things have been developing in the recent few days? We do understand there are going to be talks on energy and trade. That is, of course, lined up. But yes, this comes amid the efforts that are being made to bring peace between Ukraine and Russia.
I think, as you mentioned, energy and trade will be high on the agenda. And we have been buying Russian oil for even despite all the advice and the pressures not to do so. So that will continue, I think. But then discussion will take place. Trade is a factor. All the money that we pay for the oil is piling up. How is that to be organized in terms of Russia will then have to buy a lot from India because the dollar payments cannot be made under the sanctions. So I think these are some of the subjects that will come up. And indeed, the Ukraine issue will also come up. And given the completely changed circumstances now in terms of President Trump, trying to force Zelensky into a peace deal, and Zelensky has resisted, and his demands are there, and the Europeans have now come into the picture, promising to help him. So that's the kind of a situation in which the Foreign Secretary is visiting Moscow. And these are some of the subjects that I'm sure they will discuss.
All right, sir. Well, all right. Ukraine has also said that, after that abrupt conversation that Zelensky had with Donald Trump, Ukraine has said that it's still ready to sign the U.S. minerals deal. And that is, of course, very much important. And a lot is expected from Vikram Misri's visit to Moscow also. This weekend he's going there. But sir, how important is it? India, of course, has been maintaining that peace needs to be maintained between the two sides, Ukraine and Russia. How important it is for trade as well as, economy when it comes to India?
Well, it is important. As you know, Ukraine is also a major producer of wheat, and after the war started, the food prices went up, energy prices went up, affecting all countries, the importing countries, that is. So India was also affected. And so, there is no alternative to peace. That is how India looks at it. That if you have peace, then you can discuss things. You have a ceasefire. So in a way, Trump is right. Please have a ceasefire. Come to the table. Let's start talking. And Zelensky feels that he needs more guarantees. And because he doesn't trust Putin, he said so, that, that Putin did not do this and that and whatever. So I think that matter of territory also will come up, and there will be some adjustments. But I suspect Ukraine has probably reconciled to the fact that they will lose some territory. So there's a long history behind all this, why it happened, how it happened, what the West did, and how NATO was pushing towards the East, despite guarantees that they won't do so. So there's a long history. So I think what India would certainly like to see peace. That is not debatable at all. And Prime Minister Modi has said so, that this is not an era of war.
Yes.
We must have peace to continue with our normal relationships that we have with various countries. And Ukraine was an important partner also for India in science and technology as well.
Absolutely. Even if Zelensky goes on to say that the end of war with Russia is very, very far away, doesn't look like, much options are left with Ukraine at this point in time.
He's taken a negotiating stand, because if you agree to everything, then it's all over. So he wants to get the best deal out of any agreement. So he's maintaining a hard bargaining position, including not signing the minerals deal, because America wants it. So he needs some cards in his hand. So those are the cards that he has.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NDTV and sharing all that information with us on that. Meanwhile, this is the latest that we are picking up at this point in time. Foreign Secretary will be in Moscow this week, and much is expected from that visit of Vikram Misri.